Howdy, y'all. Welcome to the very first episode of Between Two Bulls. I'm here with CatProductions, who's got a really interesting reveal for us today. Cat, what do you have for me?
Well, if we zoom out from here, you can see a Region 3 POI that we've been teasing. We did a teaser for this, I think, 3 months ago. Since then, it's gotten its big tree in the center. But yeah, this is a POI. I made most of it. Mobs are done for it now, and the tree was made by Sunny Visions. And yeah, it's called Arxparensis. I'm pretty proud of how it looks. And yeah, it's one of the, I think, last POIs in Region 3. Not to be finished, but generally in progression. So
we're getting quite the spoiler then.
Well, yeah, I guess. It's close to the end.
I'm in awe.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, it's got all these statues going on. I enjoy it.
As you should. Well done.
Guess we'll get into the interview?
Yes, please. We've got the most important question right up front. This is from a patron. When do we get the TNT back, CatProductions? Tell us, CatProductions.
Okay, I used the TNT, and I used it to blow up the Fallen Forum. So that should have put all of that to rest, I think. You guys, I don't think I have any TNT left. I think when we did Second Fall, I think someone took my shulkers. I don't really care, but I think your TNT has been used the way the way it was intended.
The proper use of TNT, blowing up.
Yeah.
Hopefully they've gotten their question answered. Someone else wants to know, what is the piece of content that you've helped with that you dislike the most?
That I dislike the most. I don't know. I like a lot of the content that I've made.
By the way, these questions are blind. He does not know them ahead of time.
Yeah, no. With Fallen Forum, I like a lot of the parts that I did, and I think I sort of made it in a way that I intended. I was very intentional in the way that I did it. In that I wanted to make this like big open room where you like explore, and it's like a ton of different levels and secrets all around in that big main room, or at least the part of it that I did. Obviously, a ton of other people worked on Fallen Forum, but also with TFF, I kind of didn't know how exploration would affect replayability. Because it is this giant thing that you're supposed to sort of wander through and it's really explore, but that also means that it's not as good as it could be for replayability. So I regret that a little, but I do think it's nice to explore that first time, and in the future I try to like keep replayability in mind as well as like getting that sense of exploration.
How many times have you replayed Fallen Forum personally?
Oh, probably only like one or two. I mostly just do dev work these days. I don't do a ton of playing, but I got a lot of different feedback from different people. People seem to really like it the first time around, and then it sort of eroded for them. But
well, if you're making stuff like this, I don't think anyone's complaining that you're not playing as much.
Yeah, no.
Here's your resume. Wow. So what is something... Oh, man, there's some pessimistic questions now that I look at them. What is something you regret regarding Monumenta? Could be something that you did that you'd change if you could start over now, or something that you haven't done yet that you've always wanted to.
Something... regret. Let's do regret first. All right. So for regret, I think initially my building mindset was kind of like... This is kind of it's not really like, oh, I deeply personally regret this, but it's more something I think I could have done better. But with my building initially, I think it was very like cluttered. I used a lot of decoration, and I just did a lot of things and thought that's what made building better. But I think since then I've kind of learned a lot about like more sheer and kind of minimalistic, I'd say.
Sure.
That kind of, I guess it's a sort of like Hypixelish feel,
Hmm.
where you don't see a ton of decoration, but everything still has like depth and interesting qualities to it build wise.
Definitely. What's an example of something you made that had that really high decoration density
Really high decoration. Well,
that you're
yeah.
not fond of?
For the main floor forum, I'm not. It's not that I'm not fond of it.
Okay.
It's more that I think I could have done it in a way that was less invasive towards gameplay,
Mm-hmm.
because there is a lot of decoration there, and if I had cut down on that and been a bit more minimalistic, and oh no, and been a bit
Shall
more
we say?
minimalistic and yeah, put a little bit more time into trying to work in relief rather than in keeping adding things over and over again, then maybe it would have been a little better.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but why don't you explain those terms? That's a really interesting discussion right there.
Well, with in relief,
Yeah, building
working
in
in relief.
relief as opposed to
So,
additive.
well, it's a concept that's used in sculpture, but it kind of works with building. I was just using it as a sort of term, but in working in relief is when I believe, when you start with the big block of stone and then you cut shapes out of it, rather than adding on. So my idea initially was that I kept having to add on these pieces, and that's what would make it look better. But I think I really should have been trying to make things look less busy, and I think that may have been more pleasing to the eye. But there's also, you can go too far in the other direction, where you add things are too minimalistic, and some of my builds are like that. And that's I'm trying to lean back in the other direction now by adding some interest, and I think I did that with my portion of the Seer Haven rework, so I'm proud of that.
So something you haven't done yet that you'd like to?
I haven't done yet that I'd like to. I'd like to.
Without spoiling.
Yeah. I have sort of conceptual ideas for dungeonish things in my head, where I want to make a dungeon that is sort of, maybe it's best to do a comparison in here. So in Dark Souls, and I know this is overused, but in Dark Souls, the level design is very cohesive with the world design. So if you're moving about, it feels like you're in sort of this lived-in place. Even though the level is like crafted to be very playable and very game-like, it feels like you're moving through this actual sort of world that people lived in, and that you're immersed, I guess is the best term. And I think doing a dungeon or that sort of thing where the world feels lived in and immersive and connected, and all of those juicy terms, juicy game design terms, but also is well crafted and very playable, and makes sense with the level design and the layout. I think that's my biggest thing that I want to do in Monumenta. Though that's more of a goal than a thing I haven't, than something I really want to do. But yeah, I think it works for that question.
To be able to implement that sort of game design.
Yeah, in my future build, or in a specific build, whichever ends up happening, to make something that has that sort of synergy between immersion and world feel, but also playability, especially for an MMO, because it's hard to make something that's super replayable,
Right,
but also immersive. because MMOs are kind of designed to like take you out a bit of the immersion and just say, okay, grind this thing, do this thing. But I want to try and make something that like merges the two ideas.
Well said. I've got a lore question. This is the one question he got beforehand.
Okay,
kind of related to Forum, because we wanted to make sure we were all clear on this. Why or how do the Monument's wolves gain their power before they're found?
For how I'm assuming what this means is that like what this question is asking is how the wolves got their like power and magical qualities that you can harness.
Yeah, that's how I interpret it.
And if I'd say the less spoilery answer is look at Teal, play Teal, and then the more spoilery answer is there's something inside the wolves that is sort of giving it that magical property that you'd want to look at for if you want to know what wool gives what power and how the wolves get their magical qualities.
Good enough for me. Hopefully it will be good enough for whoever that was. So, on to some non-patron questions. What are your hobbies outside the game? What do you like to do?
Oh, outside of the game? I play a lot of different video games. I do a lot of theater.
Ooh, tell us about that.
Yeah. It's just high school theater. There's not much to go into. Yeah, I like acting. I've been doing it since I was pretty young. And it's just something that's fun for me. And I really like singing.
What forms of singing?
Oh, the musical theater, and I've done choir throughout my life.
Sure.
And that's something that's really fun. I like learning all the parts, and then it's always nice to hear something that sounds beautiful coming out of your own mouth. So
yeah.
Also, there's that collaborative element where you're working with other people and creating something that's really cool, and that's something that's fun about Monumenta and the singing that I do. Other hobbies, I like to read. I recently read all of Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere books. I know you're a fan of those.
I am.
But
we've been swapping theories as you've gone through. That's been
yeah. It's been a blast. But yeah, I like to read, and I've been reading those. So and now I'm going through all the sort of extra material and doing all the podcasts and various words of Brandon and all of that, and that's been really fun. So,
what has surprised you most about making Monumenta?
Surprised me most about making Monumenta. Oh, and this is the final drop, so you can big reveal. This room is mostly finished. I maybe want to put vines on the walls at some point, but I think initially I had this sort of image of the dev team in my head as this sort of like when I first came back to Monumenta, I didn't really know many of the active devs, whereas in 2017 I knew all of them. I was in alpha testing. So when I came back, I sort of saw Monumenta as like this team Monumenta as this like massive like faceless entity of like people that are they're changing my item and they're doing this and they're doing that. But after joining the team, my perception really just shifted of like, okay, now I can actually think about like opportunity cost of decisions and like motivation and because everyone on the team is self-motivated. So it's like, yes, there are things that we may be able to do to make the game like objectively better, but it's always hard to, I don't know how to phrase this in the right way, but there are things like that are very like personal and for like motivation on TM, because you're not getting paid. It's a volunteer project, so it's like you're gonna make what you want to make, and sometimes you're not making the thing that will make the game objectively perfect, but you're making something that you're having fun with and that you think other people will have fun with, and that's what I did with like stuff like Gardens of Yesel. Like, I think most people don't like that. And sure, maybe my time could have been theoretically spent making like R1 POI remakes, which is the like technical thing that the most people are able to see, and that the would theoretically do the most good for the game, maybe. But I think it's something I wanted to make, so I made it. So it's there's this very like, yeah, as I said earlier, it's a very like personal thing, creation, and I don't think I thought of it that way. I thought of it as sort of a massive like, oh, they're all making decisions in this cabal. But no, it's really not like that. It's just you do what you want to do, and you try to make the best game that you can, and you work with other people, and yeah, you're trying to do your best. So.
Quite so. What is your fondest memory as a player of Monumenta, and what is your favorite fondest memory as a developer?
Fondest memory of
if they're
player.
Separate, they could sync up.
Yeah. Fondest memory of player is Alpha. When I first played Alpha, that's not to say that the game now is bad or anything. I just I was a lot younger then, and it was more sort of magical to me, I guess.
Yeah, I totally get that.
But let's fly out of
this.
this.
Point in Alpha that you're
what?
Like a specific point in Alpha, a specific thing that you did. And you
yes,
like, oh.
I was just about to mention that, but I want to fly out of this pit since wandering around there is getting old. Early in Alpha, when I was sort of wandering through the swamp and doing those super early quests, and I was so scared of the jungle, because at that time in Alpha, the story is that the first time all the alpha testers went into the jungle, there were no honeypots, and it was all dark, and the natural spawns were harder than like the actual mobs in the POIs. So it was just kind of insane, what they had to deal with in the jungle. So I had heard all these stories from all the other, the couple other alpha testers that I had talked to, and it was all just, oh no, the jungle is this horrid place. Don't go there. But then I finally went there, and it was like, oh, it's just more game. But it was very fun to sort of wander around the spot. It felt very, very immersive. Like I was in this sort of, oh, I have to be careful, and I have to explore everything. And whereas coming back, since I wasn't blind anymore, I kind of had a different mindset. It was just like, okay, here's the game, and I knew more about game design then, so I was like, okay, here's the game loop. I'm gonna do this now, and then I just played the game. Whereas the first time around, it was like, oh, this is a magical exploration experience.
But you came back well after Region 2 was released and polished even a good bit, right? So did that have that experience at all?
Yeah, Region 2 had it a bit. Region 2 is less sort of linear than Region 1. Like, it's sort of like you can go anywhere at any time. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm scared to go to the Shroom Forest, because I didn't really know what the Shroom Forest was until I was there. And because also it's a bigger community, so it's not like people are hyping up the Shroom Forest or anything. But though it does look beautiful. But yeah, I think I had a similar experience with some of the dungeons. Some of the dungeons were really fun. Yeah, when I first got in pink, and got in the pink inner sanctum and had that like realm dimension flipping thing, that was spoilers for pink. But that was really fun.
I'm glad to hear.
Memories of dev. Was the other one?
Yeah. What fondest memory of developing?
Fondest memory of developing.
Forums release or something crazy that happened internally?
Well, Forums release was very satisfying, because it had been so long that I had been working on it, and with all these other people, so it was really, really cool to see people liking it. I think I feel like this isn't really a specific memory, but I feel like in R3 I really hit my stride with building, I guess.
You don't say.
Yeah. And I made things that I really never could have made when I was developing early on. And I like these big like structural builds, and I feel like I do level design way better now. Because if you go to the beginning of the POI and you notice, then it's like it's got levels, and it's mostly linear. It's like linear branching, so you have like the fun path, and like there are all these game design techniques that I've learned to incorporate, and I'm pretty proud of that. So I guess that's not really a specific memory. Oh, and I gotta say, working with WonderSim initially on Fallen Form, because she's just a really amazing builder, and I learned so much from her, and it was really great. It's just an experience, because I feel like I learned a lot. So
that's nice. What is your favorite video game? And if that's too hard to just do off the cuff, 3 you really like will suffice.
3 I really like, because I know I'm not going to be able to pick a favorite.
Yeah, that's what everyone says. Yeah, sure. 3 you like.
Picking Minecraft is cheating.
Yeah. Okay. So, aside from Minecraft.
I really like Half-Life 2. It's got that sort of thing I was talking about earlier, where it feels very lived in and real. Other games, I really liked Celeste, and by like time I've spent getting good at things, Celeste has got to be up there. I played a lot of custom levels of Celeste. It's got a really great story, and the movement mechanics are really compelling. And then last one. I really enjoyed Dark Souls 3. This may not be one of my top 3, but I'll put it here since I can't think of another right now. But it again had that just kind of feeling of a lived in world, and that the exploration, and it was the first RPG that made me feel like I was actually playing a role, and that I would I'm really swinging my sword and fighting these things. So it was really fun.
Awesome. What do you draw most from inspiration when building? You named Dark Souls a little bit before, and you've got these game design ideas, but what is your biggest single source?
Biggest single source. Single source of inspiration, it might be Dark Souls, because I really like, or maybe just Gothic architecture in general. I try to find real world inspirations for most of what I do, except some of the more recent things like the Seer Haven rework. That it's just okay. I take what WonderSim does and try and do it as best as you can. But most of the buildings that I make are like me like taking a photo that I've looked at and trying to see like, okay, what do these architects like do, and how does foundation work, and how do all of these different aspects of building a building in real life come together, and then I try and sort of use that and in order to make something that's in Minecraft and works just as well. I guess this is a bit broad, but I guess my biggest source of inspiration is real life, because I try and keep things in a sort of this is a bit of a tangent. There's a difference between realistic and life, and like realism versus reality. This is a thing that a game reviewer that I like has talked about. It's Matthew Matosis.
Of course, it's Matthew Matosis.
Yeah. Realism is like you're trying to mimic real life as closely as possible. Reality is you're trying to make something that feels real. So I try and take the realism of the real world and make it into something that feels real in Minecraft. Okay. So for inspiration, also I gotta say Takaro, and his Simulation Protocol 3 map. It kind of inspired me to get back into building, really. because he did such a good job of integrating that feeling of a lived-in world and also making really cool explorable level design. That in my opinion is really fun. A lot of people differ with that, but yeah, I gotta say, Dakara.
Amen. This reminds me of Getagot, which I hope you take as a pure compliment.
Yeah, Getagot or Gedagat or however you want to pronounce it is very good, and it's inspired me a lot. So.
Excellent. Last question. Tell us something interesting about you that none of us would have thought to ask in the first place.
You're putting the burden on me, I see.
Yes, I'm making you work for the last question.
Yeah, I gotcha. Weren't astute enough to ask is whether I'm a cat or a dog person. And I'm actually I love both cats and dogs, but cats hate me. They run away and they just laze around and don't do anything. So for that that it's cat's fault. But I think I gotta be a dog person, despite the fact that my name is CatProductions. So that's an interesting thing, an interesting philosophical thing for you.
Have you considered that that's just how cats are? That sounds like all cats to me.
Yeah, I guess I just yeah, I guess we just have our differences, me and cats.
There you go.
And yeah, they'll miss out on my lovely company.
That's great. Well, thank you for letting me put my dumb set in your glorious POI and
getting
out some time to answer all this.
And, careful, don't show Osas has a POI right over there.
Oh yes, we have not been able to see anything else.
Yeah.
I guess that's a good point to stop. Thank you so much, Kat. Thank you all for watching, and thank you for the patrons for picking these questions and choosing Kat. We're gonna do another one in around a week. Don't know the schedules for this yet, but thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.